from NBC Bay Area, what's next? Evan Lowe, Joe Simidian tie for second place in race for California's 16th congressional district. And I think they tied for second place after a month of counting ballots.
It is unprecedented. The race to replace Congresswoman Anna Eshoo just got a lot more interesting and a lot more complicated.
We have a tie. Both Santa Clara County Supervisor Joe Simidian and State Assembly Member Evan Lowe are tied for second place. The same.
And does anybody think for one split second either one of those guys are going to be beneficial for the state of California? Doubt it. And I saw I read just a tiny bit about this story. I saw the headline, but there's just Democrats all over the place, right? Like the brainwashing is so deep. The claws of the machine are so deep in that you have all of these people running in these races, congressional seats, Senate seats and everything. And it's all just Democrats because they've been properly brainwashed to not even acknowledge that there's another party, let alone a third party candidate. Ask RFK about that. The machine has such control. They have weaponized his own sister and wife against him, but that's a different story.
Exact number of votes. Let's bring in NBC's Jocelyn Moran. Jocelyn, this was a wild story. What happens now?
Now, we keep saying it. This goes to show how every vote counts. In an election, when counties get the ballots, there's a stack where maybe the signatures don't match or someone forgets to sign their ballot. Then voters get the chance to correct that ballot. Well, someone corrected theirs on time in San Mateo County, and that was the difference here.
Well, it's unheard of. It's unprecedented. I don't believe it's ever happened in California.
Assemblymember Evan Lowe and Santa Clara County Supervisor Joe Simidian are tied for second.
And I think that Simidian guy on the left, I think he's crazy. He's like a crazy Bernie Sanders, like socialist commie type of dude. I don't know anything about the guy on the right.
Place in California's Congressional District 16 race to replace Anna Eshoo. Here's how it would have worked. The top two candidates from the primary election move on to the November election.
Yeah, and this is where it gets all completely confusing. Some people might say that the voting system in California, they try to call it ranked choice, but some people I know literally call it rigged choice because it is much easier to manipulate and confuse people when they don't really know what the hell is going on.
We know former San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo will be on the ballot. He finished with more than 38,000 votes, but Simidian and Lowe are fighting for that second place spot. They both received 30,249 votes.
And they're all Democrats, so no matter what happens after this tie, the top two vote getters are going to face off in November. But there's three Democrats, not one R, not one I, not one Green Party, none of that stuff.
The District 16 seat represents parts of Santa Clara and San Mateo counties. Both had low voter turnouts.
Means a lot of people decided to pass on it. Any one of them could have made a difference had they chosen to vote on that day.
During an election, counties sometimes receive ballots that don't have a signature or the signature does not match the one they have on file.
Oh, so they're checking, they're authenticating signatures in this case? Is that what I'm understanding?
So those ballots go through a ballot curing process where voters have the chance to fix the issue. In San Mateo County, they can do so within the 30-day certification period.
They were doing that all the way up to yesterday when we received one ballot at about 3:45. That was the last cured ballot that we received. And we processed it and we reported it today. And that was the ballot that tied the election.
So what happens now? This is still an unofficial tie. The results have to get certified and reported to the Secretary of State tomorrow. But there could be three candidates on the November ballot. Or Lower Simidian could request a recount, which they would have to pay for.
And that's a catch as well, right? So the machine, or I guess in this case, whoever has more money could just pay for the recount. And the other, I don't know. This is a mess. But what do you expect out of California? They've got Sacramento is now a transformer sanctuary state. Gavin Newsom got his Proposition 1 passed because of stuff like this. And it's all going to pot. But they don't care. In-N-Out's leave. Everybody knows about the In-N-Out story. That was huge. That was huge news for recent times. But it's all been going downhill, circling the drain for about the past decade.
I think one thing they might consider, nobody's asked me, but they might consider splitting the cost. There's a lot to gain
No, they would never do that. That would be a little bit too level-headed. And I've said this before, but if you think about the regime, let's just say Bo Biden, for the sake of argument. If he and Kamalto were genuinely, out to do good for Americans, if they really wanted to help, which obviously they do not, but if they did, they could see, because it is not rocket science, it doesn't take a doctor or a lawyer or mathematician or whatever the hell they want to claim it does, to see what they're doing doesn't work. So if they were going to be honest about the fact that they really wanted to help Americans, they would also be honest about the fact that, well, I think what we were trying to do, it didn't really work, so let me go ahead and step aside, right? It's kind of like losing gracefully. But obviously they will never do that, because their whole goal is to destroy everything for their own benefit.
By running with two instead of three. With two, you need a majority. With three, you need a plurality. That means the person who gets more than anybody else wins. You're gambling a lot.
Okay, and political analyst Larry Gersten also pointed out a couple of other things. Liccardo got 21% of the vote, Simitian and Lowe each 16%. The rest was split among the other candidates. It was a long list, so those are votes the candidates would have to be fighting for. Plus, voter turnout is expected to be way up in the November general election, so there are a lot of votes up for grabs. We did reach out to both Simitian and Lowe's teams. They did not provide a comment at this time.
Look, this is an incredibly messy situation they have here, but California obviously loves the chaos. And, this is the article. I think they're just recapping everything in that video. But for some reason, there appears to be another video down here. Let's see what it says.
Race now ending with a tie. This is to replace Congresswoman Anna Eshoo. Now, traditionally, the top two finishers in the primary would head for a runoff in November. We've known for a month now that former San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo finished first. This was back at Super Tuesday in March. But the race for second place has been too close to call. So after all that counting, Evan Lowe and Joe Simitian have exactly the same number of votes. It is incredible. Let's bring in our political analyst, Larry Gersten. You've been doing this for a little while, right?
A little while.
I've been doing this for a little while.
So it has taken them a month to not declare a winner.
Have we ever seen anything like this? I mean, this is a high-profile, big-money congressional race, a tie.
It's a political analyst's joy, let me tell you.
You're friends with the math professors at San Jose State, I'm sure. We got to find out the statistical probability of this.
Very, very small. Very small, I assure you.
Okay, so what happens now? We know Sam Liccardo's going.
Yep.
And now we're saying, according to the rules, that instead of Evan Lowe or Joe Simitian advancing, they'll both advance, making this a three-way race in November.
Well, so here's the thing. If you want to just use the logic of the establishment, well, I guess they don't really care for Asians too much, but then there's also Stop Asian Hate. So the layers of insanity in California just no ends.
According to state law, it's going to be this way. So, I mean, there's no doubt about it. And instead of a majority to win, it'll be a plurality. Whoever gets more than and the other two wins. So if you got 4, I got 3, and somebody else had 3, you would win.
Okay, so does this favor Sam Liccardo? Does this favor Evan Lowe? Does this favor Joe Simitian? I mean, because a lot of other people got votes in this race. I think there was 11 people initially in this race.
If I'm Sam Liccardo, I'm feeling pretty good.
Okay, why?
Because the other two are going to split the vote. And I have my core already. So he's got an 8,000 vote lead.
Look, there's a couple more minutes left in this video. But notice how, there's 11 other candidates, and they won't even entertain the idea of somebody from a different party even being in the race.
Now, bear in mind, there are 84,000 people who voted for others. In addition, there are about maybe 100,000 more who didn't vote altogether.
Hold on. This is just the picture. The epitome. This guy wants to be Gavin Newsom so bad. This is the picture of California, champagne socialism.
So there's a big universe, as we call it, out there. But still, to be ahead, that's what you want. And if it's a two-person race, it gets much harder for him to feel comfortable.
Okay, so you said there's 85,000 people between Santa Clara and San Mateo counties who voted for other candidates.
Right.
Not these 3 here.
Correct.
They voted for other candidates. So who gets those 85,000 votes?
Who gets...
Just, you know what you guys should do is just use the glass of water with a D on it.
She's a wonderful member of Congress. I think all of our colleagues will attest. But those are districts that are solidly Democratic. This glass of water would win with a D next to its name in those districts. And
the 85,000, and remember about another 100,000 or so who did not vote in this election, but who will vote in the general. There's a big pot out there. There's a big pot. So it's open in that sense. But on the other hand, if you're first and you've got two guys below you splitting a lot of the rest,
sure,
it's a good place to be.
Does the governor step in this at all? Because this seems like a pretty high level, or anyone in Washington, D.C. I mean, this is...
Does the governor step in at all? Does greaseball scumbag bang your wife Gavin Newsom come in and decide who's going to win? Is that what he's suggesting?
The U.S. House of Representatives.
Well, the federal government can't step in at all. What the governor can do, I'm not sure. But I mean, in this case, it's clearly up to...
Nothing. Stay away from it, Newsom. Go away. You already beat the game. You have plenty of money. Your whole family set up. Your Aunt Nancy. You're never going to see one tiny little bit of punishment for all of the corruption. Just stay away. I can't stand Governor Newsom. And California today is just triggering me to no end. I am constantly getting like a little bit triggered, but this is absolutely through the roof. Between this and Sacramento claiming that they're a sanctuary city for the Transformers is just on another planet.
The district to figure it out in terms of how the vote's going to go. One thing I think that people haven't thought about, you mentioned earlier that you can actually pay for a recount. It's about 30,000.
So if I'm Evan Lowe's people or Evan Lowe or Joe Simiti and I can say, I want a recount, forget this time.
Right. It's about 30,000 a day, up to about 10 days they figured to do it. So it's about a $300,000 nut. That's going to come from somewhere, maybe a campaign. Well, if you were a third person and you were just out by a few votes, you might do it. But if you're tied, maybe not. But here's the deal. The candidates, Lowe and Simitian, might want to split it. They each have a lot to gain.
Split the cost
That's
for a
right.
recount. Oh,
they each have a lot to gain here, and it might be a good investment.
Okay, well, let's see what happens tomorrow. This is certified, so we'll know officially.
No chance. This is absolutely crazy, and this is why you got guys. There's another video I just did about an article, telling everybody how amazing Oakland is with a video embedded of a social media quote-unquote influencer who goes around the entirety of Oakland saying in Spanish that in Oakland, California, life is not worth anything. And then, of course, the Transformers and the gas prices and the electricity prices and all of that with this congressional district. They can't even be bothered to entertain the idea that somebody not with a D by their name could be best for the state or the city.